We currently have the House of Lords uh, voting about triggering Article 50 in these next few days, I believe. And it seems that they may be putting in an amendment to say that they want the 3.2 million EU citizens to be granted citizenship here in the UK before the EU agree to the same thing for our 1.2 million citizens in all of the EU. Now, the Prime Minister, May, is saying that she doesn't want to give them this guarantee because until the EU gives their guarantees, and I think that's quite right. I'm really stunned, astonished, amazed that the MPs and people like Nick Clegg and others, but the House of Lords are actually considering putting this amendment in. Uh, you know, I can understand Nick Clegg maybe because he's not of fully British origin. I don't believe he's of mixed EU nationality, and many of the other MPs maybe. But I'm astonished that the House of Lords, in a majority, would put this forward. How can they possibly say that they're representing the British people when all they're doing is looking after the EU immigrants here and couldn't care less about the 1.2 million UK citizens that they're supposed to be representing? What has gone wrong with our nation or the leaders of our nation? I can't understand them. They say that I'm stupid, being one of the public that didn't know what I was doing when I voted to exit the EU. But I did know what I'm doing, and even if I didn't know what I was doing, there are two ex-chancellors of the Exchequer that are voting out. There's numerous well-known and experienced MPs that are voting out. So I trust in them that they feel it's possible. But what I don't feel is right, and I'm stunned at, is that these 600 MPs, or most of them, and these 800 Lords, or most of them, are seeking to undermine a majority vote democratic vote. What is democracy if it's a case that when you get a vote that goes against your will, that you seek to undermine it all the time, and to get your way by some other devious means? I think maybe the MPs think that we're like children, the public, that we don't know what we're doing or have lacking in knowledge. Well, I would say perhaps possibly we are, but as children who have a great sense of injustice, a great sense of treachery, better than the adults, and I can say to you now that you are being very treacherous and you're being very unjust. The Lords, the ladies, the MPs that seek to protect the EU immigrants and forget about your own citizens. Where is your duty? You're being paid for duty to look after the British citizens, not the EU citizens. Yes, you can keep them equal, but you should be supporting what Mrs May is suggesting, because if she gives in to the 3.2 million EU citizens now, and then the EU are difficult, they'll be asking for something else from Mrs May when she goes to the negotiations, because they've already given away the security of the 3.2 million EU citizens' security, that they're secure here. So in order to get the security for our 1.2 million UK citizens, they'll ask for something else. It's obvious. The EU is going to be very hard on us. So the EU citizens here saying that they're not a bargaining chip, but the EU will certainly make our citizens a bargaining chip. What makes you think that it's going to be any different from them? And these EU citizens here are not going to care about our UK citizens in Europe. So I ask again, what the hell do you think you're doing? You're being treacherous. You're not fulfilling your duty to look after the British citizens. And I want to say now that that there's going to be polity polling, and I vow this to you, that we will have this polity polling, which is rule of the many by the many, and we'll have it by the internet. And this power that you have will be stripped from you because you cannot be trusted anymore. the democratic vote is rule of the many by the few, but it's not. You're not following the democratic principles where you get a majority vote that you then acknowledge that and you go forward with that. Because certainly we've had this judge's ruling in the Supreme Court, which by a person that wasn't born here, by her money, by her privilege, and representing those who are also of money and privilege. I don't know whether they're English or not. Many of them weren't. That overturned on a legal point or made the ruling that the politicians have to be involved in the negotiations. So now we have this. Now that this has been overturned by somebody who was not British, by their money, they weren't British, but not British born anyway. And I have no problem with people that have been born here and have lived here, but I do have a problem with people who vote against the interests of my country and the British born people here to overturn a democratic vote. This is never going to happen again, because we're going to go for polity polling, which will be over the internet and perhaps by referendums, and we're going to educate all the working class in politics, so that we all have an idea of what's going on, and we're going to make sure that whatever happens to our country next is by our vote and not by 600 MPs and 800 lords that have no idea what democracy means anymore. I will do this.